What is my role as a learner and a teacher by Christina Voorhees? I started off this week by asking myself a few important questions to follow up with my essential question of the week. I wanted to ask analytical questions that would challenge the mind and help me to grow in my understanding of what it means to be a good teacher. I definitely think the answers were more telling than I would have thought about my own experiences as a student and my goals as a future educator. So I started off by looking at the answers that my classmates had given me in our discussion this week, and I was surprised by how much they kind of followed what I was already thinking and how they helped me to build on the ideas that I had. Paige was very, inspired by the fact that she said mutual respect. This is not something that I really had when I was in high school. My teachers were more interested in exerting power than they necessarily were about teaching, and I think that has a lot to do with the area that I grew up in. I think that it was a lot to do with the fact that our school system wasn't that great. But I think students need to feel heard. Students need to feel like their teachers understand where they're coming from and what their needs are as human beings so that they can engage in a more active role in their learning. Because right now, the way everything is, the students are just kind of sitting there and being told facts rather than being able to engage with the facts. And I think it would be really important moving forward with my own role as an educator to remember that and help my future students to engage in the material rather than just be handed the material. So that leads me into my second question. What is the best way to interact with the learning material? And Christy pointed out that there's more ways to engage with the material than just a textbook or a video. I think these are really important. I've always talked about it since I decided to be a teacher, that I wanted my students to be creative in their projects and things like that. I didn't want it to just be an essay at the end of the unit kind of a deal. And because I want to be a history teacher, sometimes that can be difficult. How do you get the students to engage in a history project? Well, one of the things that I had come up with was a Minecraft world, because I know that's really big right now and there will be different things by the time I'm teaching. But if they can create a world about the subject or that represents the subject that we've been talking about, then that's the project that they'll be graded on, rather than having a strict project with strict rubric that has kind of a one answer. I want all of the students to feel like they have the ability to show their unique perspective on this learning material and that they feel like they're being heard and seen as the unique individuals that they are. My last question was, how can I help my students learn about themselves through the learning material? How does this help me learn about myself? And I was very grateful to my classmate for her inspired words of, I guess, just a reminder from what our reading material was, that we need to invite our students to ask questions, to be engaged, and instead of planning for them, help them to plan for themselves. As a child, I struggled to enjoy a lot of my classes because I was being handed a lot of information, and if I asked why I would need to know this, the answer was typically, well, for the test next week, rather than for your future life, you're going to need it for XYZ. I would ask things about algebra, and I'd just be told, well, you just need to know, rather than, okay, well, in the future, you may be building something, or you may need to work through a problem to help a student. I think it's important that we express interest in our students and in their lives so that we know what they need to hear. because it's not always just about the subject that you're teaching. Sometimes it's about teaching the student about life and teaching them to love their life and to engage in that life. And we can use the material that we are teaching them to show them that. And I really look forward to being the kind of teacher that my students can come to and talk to and feel safe with. And part of that means learning about myself and helping them to learn about themselves. So my major question for the week had been, what is my role as a learner and a teacher? To answer that question, I say that my role as a learner and a teacher is to become actively engaged in the learning material and helping my students to want to be engaged as well. I can't help them to be engaged if I'm not myself. And I want my students to know that I hear them and I see them and I know what they need from me. And that means listening. Not just having a lesson plan, but being moldable to what each individual student needs. And building that mutual respect so that they feel respected in their classroom, because it's not my classroom, it's theirs. This is their future that I'm helping them build. I am just an instrument to the future generation. So that is my outlook on the last week and a half.